In this video tutorial, I will explain how I edit motion capture data. If you are an animator, this part will be very interesting. As you can see here, this is mocap data based animation. It was mocap data, but I changed it quite a lot, so it doesn't look like mocap data. Let me show you my workflow. Let's go to the first motion capture data file. This one. I just turn off this layer, so base layer still has raw mocap data. So as you can see here, if you watch the first video, I explained how I retarget these images. Don't mind here the right arm is a bit no motion at certain frame. I think I deleted it when I start to work because I want to change the pose. So except this right arm, this is all raw mocap data. So this is, the acting was really good and I like the motion itself, but as you can see the motion is a bit slow because it's also the character is not realistic human character. So when we apply this mocap data to unrealistic character, it doesn't fit well. It looks like missing something. And I was keep thinking why whenever we applied mocap data to the character, why it looks a bit slower than in real. Because when I acting or when I see actor when they acting in motion capture studio, they move normally and doesn't feel slow, and sometimes they move really fast to show their cool motions. But still, when I apply that mocap data, raw mocap data to character, it looks a bit slower. I think what I'm thinking is because the mocap data missing some data from real human motion. It's all what we get from mocap data is all bone data. There's no muscle movement and there's no hair or clothes movement, which whenever we see human motion, there's always that extra data. It's not just bone movement. There's all small secondary motions with that body movement. So when we capture the mocap data, we just abstract from the bone movement. So we're missing all like small details, which gives, when we see that motion, we don't really like distinguish body movement and secondary movement. We see as a one, and then all the information gives extra data, but we retargeted the mocap data to human, to game character or 3D character. We missing that data. So I think what I'm thinking at the end, that is kind of reason why we feel that motion is a bit slow. When I start to edit mocap data, I tend to like squeeze the timing so it moves a little bit faster. But now, rather than changing timing, I change pose more. If you change the pose, it also affecting the timing. I think this is most important part to explain all this workflow, mocap editing workflow. This is raw mocap data. And then when I start to edit, I just make tidy up. I just remove the beginning, at the end, the extra motions when you start T-pose and going back to original pose or do some extra motion. I just tidy up that part. So I have like this pose. This one is not really matched at the end and then start and end pose, but usually if I work on game motion, I just matching the start and end pose, and I start to edit all other poses. I just create a layer with selecting all controller. In this tutorial, I will not explain, like I will not go one by one how I edited this animation. Rather than showing how I editing all poses, I will explain more workflow, and then I will make one more video and then actually demonstrate how I change the pose. because this one is quite complicated motion, and next time when I demonstrate this pose changing, I will choose one simple attack motion and I will show you how I edit, how I actually changing these poses on top of this base mocap data. So this one is quite same. Still, this one was like very beginning of editing this animation. So I select all controller and then create layer like this. So if I turn up this space animation, and let me show you how it changed with the after I change the pose. What I do, this is already I changed quite many different poses, but normally I choose some very key poses. As some people call it golden poses, like this one, anticipation and hit pose. This one is not really good pose. I didn't polish it much, but this one or this one. So before this one also anticipation and after hit. This one, so before the base pose was like this, so it wasn't very clear. I'll show you the anticipation pose as well. So this one is base anticipation. This one is not bad, but yeah. And then when it jump, this was how I changed it jump, but the base layer. The base layer I made him jump higher, so jump higher. Yeah, there's an old glitch, but when I change the pose it doesn't matter. And I thought this is quite important pose in the air, so this one is also anticipation pose. Then after attack there's another pose. So I just focus those couple of golden poses. But the most important things when you edit mocap data, don't try to deal with every frame. If you start to, if you try to deal with all this frame by frame, it's really big headache and it takes ages because this mocap data keys on every frame. So if you want to deal with this, it's really hard. So rather than dealing with all keys, just make a layer and then so select all controller and just key. So yeah, I just key every golden pose and try to make that pose really clean and nice in different view. In first video I showed you how I set up this shortcut for camera change. So when I make pose, for example this pose, I check this all pose in different view. Front view is important, and but not just front view, and side view is, and sometimes you will need to check top view as well, because what players sees, it depends on game, but players see the back view most of the time, or it can be quarter view. So it's always important. It's good to make your character looks very nice in different angle. And as you can see, this one, the base layer looks a bit slow, but after changing the pose, it looks much faster. Well, in the frame length is same. I didn't change any timing at all. It's just I just changed on top of this space animation, but still it looks quite fast compared to the base animation. It is because I made the pose bigger. So making pose bigger, push the pose means your animation will be faster because it travel. Let's just see this motion. It's in base animation, it travels like this much from here and here. But in animation layer, I made this pose much bigger than base layer. It makes in same frame, it makes this pose changes bigger. So and then the space, moving space is bigger. It means in same frame length, if the motion if the mesh travel bigger space, it means it moves faster. That's why even I didn't change any frame length, it looks already faster. This is why I started not changing the timing at the beginning. I will explain why I did before. I just select all and then shrink the frame. Like now it's 142 frame, but I like select all controller and I tend to make fast this reduce this frame length like 124 or like as a 90% or 92-94%, so it moves faster. But I don't do it anymore. I try not to do it, or I change the timing later after changing pose. I still change the timing, but I don't change the timing before, because if I change the timing before changing pose, when I change the pose and also it change the timing, so it kind of mess up. It makes too fast because I made this character motion faster, but when I change the pose, I also make the character movement faster. So yeah, you can change the timing, but I think it's better changing pose, changing timing is after changing pose. So what I do, I will summarize what I'm saying. I talked too much already. So select all the controller and then create layer and choose. I will delete this and then show you. Select all controller and then create layer on top of this. Then I will just key at the start and the beginning. Then just key wherever you think is key pose, golden poses. I usually make this anticipation pose and then hit or after hit, just after hit, there's some like holding moment. And then anticipation. This motion is, as I mentioned before, this motion is quite long, so there's more golden poses like just before he off the ground. We can make this really strong and stretched pose, and then in the air. Then after landing, holding this pose quite long, so making this pose cool is kind of good, gives good impression to the player. After finishing, it goes back. So it can be, if it's normal motion, it can be around 5 pose, but now there's more pose. But if it's just one short attack, it can be like just 5 or less than 5 poses. So you choose that pose and then try to make really strong. And then after that, I merge that layer. Like I will go to another file. It can be this one. So after changing pose, I made this. As you can see, I made this anticipation pose really big and strong, different angle, and then when it hit, after hit, this pose was golden pose as well. So I made very strong this pose. This pose is quite different if you remember if you back the original pose, when you hit the pose was like this, which is not very clear, but you can make it stronger like this. Compare this one and this one. This pose is much strong. Then this one I just made he turned twice. Then it depends on how much time you have with your clip. If you have more time, you can try some more, you can tweak more. But if you don't have time, or if your game style is not as realistic style, you don't really need to change too much. This one, if you use this motion for realistic character, it will not suit it, because they will not, human cannot jump and like they cannot turn like this twice and attack. But this is not realistic character, so I just tried something more exaggerated motion. So I just added one more ton, and then I spent some time to make this pose nicer rather than this. If you have experience with the motion capture, that when you see the actors motion in studio, it's really cool. They are experienced martial artists, so they do cool motions. But when you apply the motion to the game character, the poses sometimes is not very strong, because even cool martial artists and very experienced, they can't keep all the poses very strong. So, but still, the mocap data has good timing, so still it saves a lot of time. I changed this after merging. I changed this, and then after that, I also changed it to make him holding this weapon with the two hands, because this weapon is looks heavy and quite big, so I thought it's better she holding this sword with two-handed. And then after that, when I finish, this is kind of extra keyframe animation. In mocap data, I don't have this kind of finishing motion. So this you can add if you need some extra motion. You can add with keyframe. And then when you finish it, till when you polishing animation, I don't turn on this skirt or extra part, hair, cape. I just keep as simple as I can, because this makes easier to see character silhouette. I just yeah, actually I don't really keep this mask as well. Yeah. So this is base. So for this animation I spent more time, because this was just personal project, so I spent more time. And then when I finished the base body movement, I spent time for polishing arc of this suit. It took quite time to make this clean arc. And then after finishing this, polishing up all body and sword arc, what I do, I just turn on these all secondary motions and then add the secondary motions. There's some things I want to explain. There's many things actually. There is some more extra part, like the head rotation need to be more focused to where he attack. For example, sometimes even experienced actor, when they do some motion clip, because they don't really attack something in front of him. They are focused of their acting itself rather than they are thinking to attack something in front. So the head sometimes doesn't not really focus where he attack. So usually I change the head rotation to look more focused where he or she attack. For example, here if you see she is looking at where he attacked till finish, and then still keep looking at where she attacked. She minimized the time she not looking at target, still keep looking at, and then when she turn before she hit the target, she looking at the target first and then hit it. If you see any martial art or fighting clips, you will see the attacker always focus where he or she attacks. In game, if you actually see the character don't look at the target, it doesn't feel this character is engaged with the enemy. So it's always important to make the head, the character look at where he attack or she attack. This one as well. This one is a bit different. She is really pushing the sword. Then the head is a bit. I changed this head first to give. She is really dragging this heavy weapon. Then this one as well. When she ready to hit the target, she focus her head focus to the target where she attack, and then she watching, and then after she hit the target also there's some like moment she changed her head rotation, but she come back where she attacked and then check the target. So this kind of head rotation, changing head rotation, is important. In this video clip, I just briefly show you how I edited this motion capture data, but next time I will just choose one simple, very simple attack clip, and then I will just demonstrate how I change it from the beginning to end. So yeah, this is pretty much all. And for this secondary animation, I made already a tutorial video before with the run cycle, and in that tutorial I explained how I used a script called Overwrapper. It's so easy and simple script, but it works really well most of the time. So, and you can have a look at that video tutorial for secondary animation. Okay, I almost finished. As I mentioned, I will just create one more tutorial for mocap editing tutorial. Okay, see you at next video.